Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. And this is part 6 now of this Vulcan build. This is the new tooling from Airfix. Now we're looking at these intakes. If you remember, in part 5 I got them all glued together. We put the plastic card around the outside just to make sure they're really solid. The reason I've done that is from experience. I've found you can be holding them, sanding them, and like you can see on this one here, we're removing more plastic from one side than the other. One side's all filler and the other side's plastic. So what's happening is you've got your two parts together like that. Well, if they're like this and you sand half of this one away, your glue joint is getting ever thinner and it cracks, and then you're back to square one. So I back it up with some plastic card just to make sure it doesn't split open on me. So, and that one's pretty even. You can see that one's fairly even and it's going in both ways. It's sanding both sides. So they're not actually too bad at all. There's no ejector pin marks inside them, which is nice. A little bit of a mismatch from the splitter into the roof, you can see in there. If you can see it in there, a little bit of a mismatch. There's some filling required, but it is on the top. The bottom is done. If you remember, I did the bottom of the splitter before we actually glued all this together. So now we're basically working on the seams and getting everything nice and flat. There's a couple of tips and bits of advice I've got. For getting inside, these Flory skinny sponges are pretty good. They've got a fairly coarse side. I guess that's like a, I don't know, 200 grit, maybe a 240. And then this one is very smooth. So using the coarser side, we can get in and roll it round, because here we've got like a radius going into a flat, and here we've got a radius going into a tighter radius. So you can't really use any one tool for doing everything. So just go in with this and keep turning it. Don't have it flat, and roll around. But stay away from this front edge, because what you like to do if you use a sponge on this front edge, you're going to round it off. So for the front edge, I'm using my Infini PE sander, so I'm keeping the front edge nice and square and not actually rounding it off. For doing inside the tubes at the back, this is what I always do. I get a piece of wet and dry, this is 400 grit, and I roll it up quite tightly first of all. Okay, roll it up quite tight, like this. Okay, and that makes a cylinder, and you can put that inside there, let it go, and it springs out to the right size. And then you can just literally go in there like that, and you can run it around, and you can just sand and get a nice round surface in there. And as you can see on there, we've got a little bit of a mismatch. We are sanding more on that side, on this side, than we are on that side. So we do need to do a bit of work in that area. But that's what I do. Now for doing this, don't go buying cheap Chinese wet and dry. Like this stuff here, it's awful. It won't roll. As you see here, when you try and roll it, it kind of forms like a hexagonal shape. It won't roll, whereas this stuff will roll. And this is Mirka, and I believe this is the Rolls-Royce. It's made in Finland. It's the Rolls-Royce of wet and dry papers. And as you can see, you can roll it up. You know, and if you ever need to get something dead flat, when you roll up this, a cylinder is always going to be dead straight down one side, so you can sand dead flat. I also do it for RC body wheel arches. So yeah, you can see this stuff will roll. As you can see, I can roll that into a nice cylinder, whereas you try and roll this stuff and it just, well, it's awful. So yeah, and the other thing you can do is find something like this little scriber I've got here. You could roll the wet and dry around that, and that'll get you in this little front edge here. So you can make sure you don't get any flat spots in there, so you can go in there and just roll it around and get it, or you could do a twisted motion, whatever. You could go inside from the back, just roll it around if you want something hard to sand up against that edge. So, and then you could get a piece which is longer and sort of tape it on both ends or something, and then use it as a tool like this, you know, with your wet and dry on there. There's a million different ways to skin a cat, and you know, it's not, you know, there's no rocket science about it. So what we can do here is just take a piece of this off like that, and then wrap that around there like so. Again, not getting the cheap stuff. You can't do this with the cheap stuff. And then we can get up inside there, and we can sand then with a radius, and we've got a hard a hard surface to press into it and get those steps out of it. Just like so. So it's just general modelling tips from an old fogey to help you get the best out of your models. Now, a lot of people, there'll be no time at all before somebody comes up with resin intakes for this, and a lot of people prefer to just go and buy resin intakes rather than do this work. I prefer to do this work myself, rather than just glue on bits of resin for everything. And it's like a lot of people instantly go and buy aluminium barrels for their tanks and stuff, and or turned brass barrels or whatever. You know, it's not too much trouble to put two pieces of plastic together and make it into a cylinder. But depends how you want to spend your money, I guess. So there we go. We can just go in there like that and then sand with a hard edge. And don't try and get it perfect on the first pass. You can see the white Mr. Surfacer, or whatever you want to call it, is in there. And we're not going to try and get it perfect first time. So all we do is we come along now with our Mr. White 100, Mr. Base White 100, Mr. Base White 1000, sorry. Slow down now, stop trying to speed the world up. So we come in there just with a nice brush, come in, don't worry about being sparing or neat with it. I'm just going to follow down that seam. And when this dries, we'll be able to see then if we need to do any more seam work, or if we're there. I'm going to put some in around that upper area. In here. The only bit that you don't really matter about is this face here, this one, because when it's on the model you won't be able to see it, because the only way you can see it is if you kind of angle and look down there. Well, the nose is going to be here, so don't make too much fuss about that one because you won't see it. But we just brush that in. We can look down in there now in the reflection of the light, and we can see that we're looking pretty good. And then once we've got it all nice and smooth, we'll paint them. There we go. So that's that one all painted. So I shall get the other one done, and then I'll come back. Okay, so they've had another coat now, and you can see if you look at them while the paint's wet, it's glossy obviously, and it gives you a better idea of how you're looking. And obviously it's not picking up on the light, but you can see in there that it's coming together nicely. So we'll just keep applying that Mr. Base White 1000, this one here, which is like a liquid filler, and just keep sanding it. It's one area of a model on a jet you need to get it right, because it's where everybody looks. So there we go, and even Jess agrees. So once we got these all done and everything, we're going to want to get them on in the plane. So we're going to have to get these intakes painted. So at the moment I'm scratching around trying to look for stuff to do without blasting ahead too far. So we want to do these in a metallic colour, obviously, and I always try to avoid airbrushing metallics. And this paint here, this is Mr. Hobby metal colour. There's also metalizer or something. This is 218 aluminium, and these are actually buffable, so if you brush them on they're quite dull, but if you then polish the polish parts of it, it will actually polish up. But the beauty of them is, as you can see here, you can brush paint it and get a lovely finish. You can just flood it on and it will level out and sort itself out, and you know, it's really, really nice. And for bits and pieces like this that aren't really going to be seen because they're way down in there, and unless you shine a torch down in there, you're not really going to see them. So what we're going to do with these is, the reason I'm using this paint is because it's an aluminium colour, it's a little bit brighter than it probably would be. It would probably be a little bit darker than this in real life. So what we can do is polish, we can buff the front so that the nose, the cone and everything in the centre will shine up beautifully, and then give it a black wash which will blacken the background. So we'll end up with sort of shiny blades and shiny nose cone, and then a sort of grey background which will give it some depth. But when you actually look down in there, you know, you can't really see much at all. So we've just got to try and make the best of what we got. And you know, because really what would be nice to have is a stator on the front with blades behind it and everything. But you know, that would be asking too much for an Airfix model kit, or any manufacturer's kit. I expect Eduard will come up with something, so you can do that if you want to. But the other beauty is, you see, we can brush that stuff, so we haven't now. That's just my really dirty old thinners that I use. The trouble is with metallics, if you get them in your thinners or if you get them in your airbrush, everything you paint will have metallic fleck in it, and it's a bit of a pain. So that's why I like to use that, because it's brushable. Even if you were doing like an engine, if this was an engine, you could brush that on and you won't get any brush marks. It's bloody gorgeous stuff, this. It's brilliant. So we'll leave that to dry, and then we can give them a buff and get a wash on them. In the meantime, we've got this tail assembly here drying off. We could get some more sanding done on here. I've done some more work around the sink marks, but I'm going to show you more of that in a minute. And at the moment, I'm just waiting for stuff to dry all the time. Okay, so that's all dry now. That's been on there about half an hour. So now we can come in the cotton bud and just, we can take them off the, no, we'll leave them on the tape actually. And just basically buff the fronts of the blades. Get them all nice and shiny. Just like so. Just like that. Just buff them with a cotton bud. And now, I don't know if you'll see it in the light, but they're all nice and shiny now on the front. And then what we can do is just come in with a black wash. Got one here. Industrial dirt. Now I want the black. Whenever I want industrial dirt, I grab the black, and vice versa. So there's the deep black. And we'll grab one of our oil for use with oil brushes, and we'll give this a good old shake until all the black pigment comes out the bottom. There we go, and then we can just get an upturned Tamiya jar. 1 drop or 2 drops. 1 drop would have been enough. Dry it off. This is the Modeller's World stuff I've shown you before, which I absolutely love. It's brilliant. Okay, and then we can just brush that on, just like so. And let that run into all that lovely detail. And then we can take a cotton bud and wipe it off the front. Just like so. And then down inside the intake, I'm going to need some more of this, I think. In fact, it looks like this wash is actually removing some of the silver paint, because I'm getting silver in the wash. That might be an interesting effect. So what I might have to do is dry brush these to get the shiny effect on the front of the blades again. That's very interesting. Now those metallics I thought were, I didn't think they were enamel based. I think whenever I've used wash over metallics before, I've always had a clear coat in between. Maybe that's the problem. I think I need some more of that wash. I'll get this done and then I'll come back. And there we go, all done. And as you can see, it's not a massive difference between the back and the front, but we do have that wash in there. And then when you look down in, you can see they look quite effective. The black becomes blacker and the silver becomes brighter in the light. So you know, you look at it like that, it doesn't look much special, but when you look at it through there, it looks pretty good. So we'll leave it like that. So that's them done. I've done some rubbing down, and I've put some black Mr. Surfacer around the outside edge, because we had a bit of a sort of a like this it was with the little indentation. So I've just sanded it a bit more, put some black Mr. Surfacer over it, and then we can get that nice and level and flat, just to make it look pretty. I've sanded out all around here now. That's all done. That's all looking lovely. So we're good to go now. That nose is pretty much ready to go on to the rest of the fuselage. So the other thing I've been doing while I've been off camera is sanding more, and then putting some black Mr. Surfacer on the sink mark areas. I've done some white on there. I'm just trying to add some different colours so that I can see what's going on, and also on the trailing edges of the underside needed a bit more in there, so I've put some black in there, and then we can sand away, and if we've got any black left then we know we're low. So there we go, or any unsanded black left should I say. And we can see there that sink has just reappeared in the Mr. Surfacer, if I catch that in the light. Okay, so you can see they're not the easiest thing in the world to fix. If you're buying your model from a shop, I would suggest having a quick look, open the box and have a quick look inside. These are on the top of the box, so you don't have to go delving in deep or anything. And if the model's covered in sink marks, perhaps get one from somewhere else or try another box or something, because it's quite a bit of work. And if you don't have all the sanding sticks and the Mr. Surfacer and everything, then you know it could add a lot of cost to the model for you. You could just get it and complain to Airfix, and they'll probably send you another one, and it will probably be exactly the same. I remember with the Typhoon canopy issue when they first came out, the 24 scale Typhoon, I bought one, had the sunken canopy. They sent me another one, it was worse. They sent me another one and it was about the same. They sent me another one and I gave up. So that's the way that went. So I think they got it sorted in the end. But there we go. So I'm just going to carry on sanding these. I'm going to use a coarser stick to start. Try saying that after a few beers. Use a coarser stick to start with, just to get into it. Just take the top of it off and then we'll see what's left. Careful when you're sanding this area here, you don't want to be sanding that there flat. Maybe I can get with a skinny stick would be better. But as you can see, it does add a lot of sanding work to the model, so if you're one of those that just wants to get it built so that you can paint it, which it seems many modelers are these days, then you might want to not get one with sink marks in it. So I'm just going to pull through those scribed lines. There we go, that's that sorted. And this area down here, we have to be careful because we've got some raised areas here. That still feels a little bit soft. I'm just going in with the coarse side of the stick. Just take the top off. You can see it's kind of spreading it rather than sanding it. So that's still too soft to do. That's probably still too soft. This area here should be good. Should be when we sand this, we find that we've got no black left. Or maybe a little bit here. I think it was a little bit low on the leading edge. Well, not on the leading edge, but the front of the sink mark. There we go. The sanding sticks are getting all knackered now. This is the problem with sanding Mr. Surfacer. It does tend to clog your sticks up. Try this 400 Matador here. Of course we can't go too coarse because we don't want to scar the surface. There we go, I think that'll do us. So then we can just once again run through the scribe lines. Just using the pressure of the tool, just make sure they're all clear, and that's that done. So that's all lovely and smooth now, no sink marks or anything. This area up here is going to be the same, just keeping the stick flat, rolling it around. You don't want to keep going like that because you'll end up with a flat spot. Just keep rolling the stick around, and then we should end up with a flat area. Well, not flat area because it's curved obviously, but no sinkage in it. And just in case you haven't seen part 5, the reason I'm doing this now rather than when they're together is just because it's easier to handle. we go. As you can see, we've got all sorts going on here. So that's them dealt with. Those there have already been sanded. They're okay, they're gone. So other than this back here, that's that panel taken care of. And then we've got this one to do as well. Same sort of areas up here. So I'll get that sanded now and then I'll come back when we're ready. Right, you'll be pleased to know I finally, this is hours later, I finally finished sanding down all these sink marks and everything. You can see I've gone over now with grey after I put the black in, let that dry, rub that down. And I think what I'm going to do now is go and wash these in some warm soapy water because all the panel lines are full of dust. There's probably got a lot of static in it and everything. So I think that's what I need to do next. But you can see here what I've been using different colours so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to give these a wash, I think, get them cleaned up and then we'll glue them together. In fact, what I might do is glue them together first because what I want to do is glue it together like this so I can work on the seam underneath that we're going to see up through the Bombay. So what I want to do is just first of all tack it together, and I've placed it together and checked the alignment. It's a lot better than the bottom was. The tabs don't need sanding or anything. But you need to be really careful when you put it together because this back end will easily sort of step out of line like that. So be very careful. So I think what I'm going to do is put some cement on those tabs initially. So I'll put some on there, some on there, some on there, and then we'll run some down there. And then we can just put this together like so. Just let it sit. Maybe it will sort of glue together a bit. I don't know. It's a bit of a strange design. I don't know why they didn't mould this in one piece. They've obviously got the tooling big enough because they moulded them on the same sprue, so the actual sprue would have been narrower if they'd have been joined. But, yeah, very strange. If they'd have moulded it in one piece, everybody would have said, "What a brilliant idea! What on earth fix? That's awesome!" But they chose not to. I just want to sort of get this to lock together, really. As you can see, we've got a bit of an issue here because to get those aligned, when the tab's down, when this tab here is pressed down into the other half, then the alignment on the tail back is terrible. So I don't know what to do there. Let's take it apart a minute. I might do some corrective action there because that tab, as I say, when it's in contact, if I push that tab up so that the top is flush there, the back goes a mile out. What I want to do is come in with some clamps and clamp these little bits here together. And then if I pull that okay, it's very strange. If I pull the back end so it's in line, this goes out of line here, so obviously it's twisted. So we need to get that to hold solid before we put any glue on the back end. So obviously this piece here is twisted up. This side is twisted up. You can see it's not in line, but it's all in line here. So what we'll do is we'll get the main fuselage or the main sections glued up. I'll get some glue in behind there as well. And we can get that glued up. And you also need to push this side needs to be pushed forward, otherwise you'll get a gap. So we grab a peg peg that there. There we go. So I think what we can do now is come along with our Mr. Cement S. Make sure your fingers are nowhere near the seam on the back. Just get some glue in there. Make sure it's all pushed together nicely up here. It's hard to see what's going on with all that bloody Mr. Surfacer in there. A tiny little step there, I'm not going to worry about that. One of the clamps just flown off. I think I'll get some glue down in here now. Get that pushed together. I can't get a clamp to stay on there, so we'll have to just hold that. So I think I'll leave that for now, I won't go any further back with the glue. Get some glue down in the bottom of those slots. To make sure that's nice and flush there, otherwise the fin will be on an angle. So take these clamps off, push it all together nicely. Go. And there we are. I know it's not very interesting viewing, guys, but I know that some of you, the newer modelers out there, would like to see how I do this. If you notice, I'm not putting any tape on because the tape will capillary up under. Plenty of glue in there, flooding it in there, making sure everything's all nicely welded together. I'm going to take that clamp off of there and get some glue into there, get some glue into that tab, then we can get that one back on, take that one off and get some glue into there and get some glue into that tab and then put that clamp back on. And then I think we'll leave that, just get itself welded together. There we are. Fun, fun, fun. Yeah, there's a bit of a step in it there. It's nice and flush here. There's a bit of a step there, and then it goes nice and flush here. So should have probably done a bit of work on one of those tabs, but never mind. Too late now. I'll just have to sand it. It's only an airplane area. There's no riveting or anything. I'll just have to sand it and then scribe those lines across. There's no mean feat. I think what I'll do is just go in from the outside now. Get some cement into that joint. Get it nice and wet. Get it nice and wet and sticky. And then once that starts to gel off, we can grab some tape and just start to pull it together. I think actually I'll use some new tape rather than this old stuff. It's been used about 100 times. That's that held together there. And there we are, that's that all done. These clamps keep coming off the back. Again, make sure that area there where the tailplane goes is level. The fin, should I say, sorry, not the tailplane, it doesn't have tailplanes. Actually, now that is going to stay where it's been put, so what I can do is actually glue that now, that back end. Get some glue down in there. Get plenty in there and let it go to work. And then get it to stay parallel. And clamp it. And there we go. Get some glue in from the top. All the way in there. Flood it in. And there we are. Leave that now for a good few hours and let that go off. Otherwise, if you don't let it go off, you just pick it up, it'll just fall apart. And what I might do here, where we've got areas where we don't have the Bombay showing through, like back here and here, I might put some plastic card across to support it, or maybe just some sprue glue. But this looks like a gap here. It's not. It's just because there's black Mr. Surfacer on the other side, and the glue is sort of soaked up the Mr. Surfacer and taken it with it. So I'm just going to check quickly one thing before we go any further, is that that's all going to fit. I've got a lovely seam there now, look. That was because I made sure this side was pulled right, sorry. Yeah, this side is pulled hard that way, otherwise it just wants to naturally fall back. So there we go. I think one other thing we will just do quickly while it's gelling off is what we can do is try it on here and make sure it all goes together okay. Just drop that on there, like so, and yeah, it's gone together lovely. So we're good to go. Let's just check to see how that tail fits. That's fine. Actually, it's not a very good fit at all. It's got quite a big step there, but we'll sort that. So there we are. If you just want to have a preview of what it's going to look like, there you go. There's your Vulcan bomber. Right, so let's let this all dry and then I'll come back. Okay, welcome back. So next day now, everything's dry. I've sanded out all the intakes and everything. So we're going to give them a coat of this Mr. Base White and see, Mr. Base White, and see how they look. I think they should look quite good because the beauty of this is it's like a sort of semi-gloss finish. It goes on and settles out beautifully. It's called Mr. Surfacer, so well, it's not. It's called Mr. Base White, but it's basically Mr. Surfacer. So it's one of the best primers you're ever going to get from modelling. So I'm going to get some Mr. Colour Leveling thinners, and some people will cringe at me doing this, but I always do it, and I always have done, and I always will. And that is mixing the paint in the airbrush. So I'm putting some thinners in there. I know it's a little bit dirty. It's right at the bottom of this, about the last sort of 10mm in the bottom of the bottle. So here we go. Always put the lid back on. This is the only thing with these Mr. Surfacer, Mr. Colour Lovely thinner bottles. They're taller than they are wide, so they knock over very easy. And I'm going to take a brush and I'm just going to put some of this in here, and I'm just going to do it until it looks right. So what I'm actually after is, so when I pull it up the side, you can see I pull up the side of the airbrush there. It's like, I hate to use this term because it's a term I hate people using. It's like milk. Okay, now I hate using that term because there are different milks. If you look at the red top milk, it's much thinner than the blue top milk. So saying it's like milk is a stupid thing to say. But basically I just want a very thin mix. The reason being is because we're spraying in these intakes, it's going to be going over the same area lots of times, just like we did with the cockpit. So we don't want to be having it too thick. So I'm just going to come in here and spray into the intake and let it build up slowly. And if you aim to sort of spray through the intake rather than at the sidewalls, it will build up. And you will get a coat over the whole thing. Now we can see when we look down in there, we can see some reflectivity and we can see the seams are all looking nice. So as I say, building it up very, very slowly. You don't want to go piling it in. Of course, the other way to do this is to mix them up, pour it in, hold your finger over the end, pour it in, let it fill up, let it all run out. But then the trouble is then it's going to build up quite thick. Okay, so you get the idea. I'm just going to continue now and get them all done. And there we go. See, all done, all painted inside, all looking lovely. I did actually go over afterwards quickly with some XF2. So we'll see how that dries out. We'll give that a good, I don't know, a good 12 hours to dry before we start playing around with masking stuff. I've also done the Bombay roof. As you can see, I've done the seam down the centre, sanded out any marks. I also carved a chunk off of the front of here because when you put it together, that rib was sticking out of the front of this rear bulkhead. So I've just carved only about 1 millimetre off the front of it so it didn't look daft. And then when that's all glued in, we'll go around there with Mr. Surfacer again. I'll probably use the white and then go over with alcohol and clean up all the seams. But so sprayed underneath all these, so when we look in these holes we've got the white underneath, and then also on the back of here I've also painted these bulkheads so that when you look through the gaps, better to do that now than try and do it when it's all in together, because it's going to be difficult enough to spray as it is, because of all the shapes and nooks and crannies and stuff, but we will get there. So right, let's call it a day there, and then we'll be back for something else in a minute. Right, pushing forward, I do want to do something now because otherwise I'm going to forget, is to put these landing lights in. So first I noticed they don't fit. So I measured them and they're actually 3.14, which is like just under 1/8, and I think these holes were 3mm. So a bit of cross-referencing miss there at Airfix. So I've got a 1/8 drill, which is like 3.2. Just go in there and just open that out. It's literally a few thou. If you don't have an 1/8 drill, you could go in there with a round file or something and just remove some plastic so that they fit in there. So then they just drop in lovely then, he says. There we go, they just fit in lovely then. So not going to worry about what I did with the windows with the black surrounding, because this is, as I say, a landing light, so it would be bright anyway. I'm just going to touch the glue in there and just give it a little nudge. And then I've already drawn out this other side, so we'll pop that one in there, like so. There we go, and then just drop a glue in there and it wicks around. Give it a little nudge, job done. And then make sure you don't touch them from behind, and then we've got a nice clear. And what we'll do is we'll get some bright silver paint on the back of there so that they remain bright when we put the wings together, because otherwise if you just leave them like that, when you put the upper wing on, you will end up with black. So you don't want that, you want it to be bright and silver and shiny. So there we go. So that's what I should be doing. So in fact we could do that now. So I'm going to take some Tamiya sparkling silver, this is LP48. This is a lovely colour. And we'll get a drop of this on the back of those to make them nice and bright. Just take some out of the lid, brush it on like that. Doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to be silver. That's it. Just a couple of seconds and it's done. And then when you turn it over, you can see now they look nice and bright. And when we put the wing on, the upper wing on, they'll still be nice and bright. Right, so this paint's had a little while to dry now, so perhaps we can look at start masking, or at least get these masks cut out. So I've had a little think about this, and a few of you have made suggestions after seeing video 3, but this is now sort of 3 or 4 days later. So that is the trouble when you make videos and then you don't put them straight out. You guys are answering questions that I've already answered myself, so I shouldn't be asking questions really. But anyway, I've had no idea with these templates. The other thing is I think they're wrong. If we look at the intakes, we can see this is the bottom, okay, and the bottom is shorter than the top. All right, so the line going back from here to where the camouflage starts or finishes will be longer on the top than it is on the bottom, obviously, because the bottom is shorter, whereas here they've got the top shorter than the bottom. So I think that's the bottom and that's the top. So that's what we're going to try anyway. So I've got some tape here, so I'm just going to put a layer of tape. What I've done here, I've put some sellotape over these templates, so that I can just put that on over there, and that one can go down over there, just like so. Okay, and then what I've done is put some sellotape on here so that I can peel the tape away easily. So what we can do now is cut around here. Around here, remove the tape. I'm not worried about cutting the plans. What I did actually plan to do, and I've actually got it here and I haven't done it, is put a cutting mat behind. And I think the other thing I'll do is turn it over so I can have it better closer to me. So I'll put a cutting mat behind. So now we can peel this away, just like so, and there we go, job done. Right, so what I intend to do now is cut along here and cut out this template from which edge is it that matters? It is this edge that matters, isn't it? Cut this out. I'm in my own light here, I can't see what I'm doing. at that, I've cut that front edge that doesn't matter, I've cut it perfect, and that one there's a bit of a mess. Anyway, right, so is that going to lift off? It's taking the paper with it, that's okay. Right, so what we'll do now is remove, and I'll leave that piece of tape there actually, and what I'm going to do is cut through there, and then I can remove this piece of tape here, but I don't want to remove the paper with it. So if I peel it from that side, but we need to cut the paper out because obviously the other side is going to be reversed, so we need it cut out so we can use it. Cut that through there, cut that corner, so there we go, that's gone. Right, so now I'm going to cut along here, and I'm going to remove this. We can take that away from there, that can go over there out of the way. Now, it's such a shame I've made a mess of that edge. If I can cut it again. This is always the problem with doing videos, and the other thing is I've got this cutting mat, it's following a trench in the cutting mat. This is always a problem with doing videos because you can never get yourself where you need to be. Like I would like to be like this, obviously that's no good for you. So I need to clean that up somehow. I think really I need to start again. Let me start again. Now I took this off, and believe it or not, the masking tape is pulling the sellotape off the paper, so I don't know. This is a right pig's ear, to be honest. I think I might end up just masking it myself. So what I've done, the plan is, that's the template under there. That's my mask. So if I now put another piece of masking tape over the top of that, I know what the problem is here. This is Mr. Hobby tape, and it's not as good as Tamiya tape. So that's probably why we've got the problem here. So put that over there like that, and then trim that end off. Yeah, I can't believe what I should have done was use Tamiya tape instead of this Mr. Hobby stuff. Hey ho, a bit late now. So I've still got the shape there, so I'll be okay to go. I'll be good to go, should I say. So remove that, stick all that over there. And then we should be able to take this mask off, leave the sellotape behind. And the reason I've got the tape over there is to keep them together. Okay, so I've managed to get them both done now. I used Tamiya tape for this one, it's gone really well. So basically what we've got now is we've got the template here and here that Airfix have given us, and then behind it I've got another piece of tape, and it's another piece of tape on the top, hold them together. So what I'm going to do is lay this piece of tape in as Airfix intended, and then peel that front one away, and it will leave the back one in place, and then I can mask the rest of the white and spray to my heart's content. Now, it wasn't very long ago that I sprayed the white, so I'm not going to put them in yet. I'm going to leave them for a few hours, as I say. So I need to make the reverse now from the other side, and then we've got a full set of masks. And there we go. There's our mask all cut out. So happy how that's gone. A bit frustrating at times, but we'll see if it works. And I've now got the, where are they? So I take them back in now, so we've got a full instruction manual again, just in case 20 years down the line a kit comes up with no decals and instructions, and I got them, haven't I? So there we are, all done. We'll see how that works. Obviously I can't try them yet because I'm going to let the paint dry, and I'm going to call that a day for this video because I want to publish it and get it out. So I will speak to you all very soon. That's been part 6. If you want to see these being used, come and tune in part 7, and we'll see if it works. So I'm not going to be painting with them in part 7 because the plan is to put these in, tear away the front section, then mask up the back, get it all nice and masked up, get these compressor blades and stator blades into the backs of them, and then we can fit these and everything will be masked up ready for so we can do some seam work around here, and then we can paint it all together. So thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. If you've liked this video, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hit the unlike twice, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.